So now we're going to look at sort of the fashion and fabric part of the course. And here, as you see, it's a typical sort of Native American piece of clothing. We're not going to talk about Native Americans in this class. Most of this course focuses on the period after 1865. And by that time, there's not a lot of Indians left. And so Native American and Native American fashion falls without the framework. Though certainly a course on American history through fabric and fashion, Native American clothes would fit in. But as I said, we're not going to talk about it. This is a very interesting piece of clothing. It really is the first American piece of clothing. And it's known as a hunting shirt. And as you can see, it's fairly crudely made. It doesn't have any dye, not a lot of design. It has some fringes. And what's going on here is that England, the British, used the American colonies as a market for their clothes. So British merchants wanted to sell their clothing in America, in the colonies. And to make it easier for them to sell their clothing, they basically banned Americans from producing their own clothes. So it was basically illegal to weave your own fabric and to sew your own clothes. And so this shirt then was illegal. And so when you saw someone wearing a hunting shirt like this, you knew that that person was against the British and was for American independence. So what makes this notable is that the very first piece of American clothing really is a piece of protest clothing. It's a piece of clothing worn as a protest, and that's something that we're going to see throughout this course, clothes as protests. Here's a video about Sally Hemings. I'll post that and you can look at it. I'm not going to do it here. And here are two portraits juxtaposed. This guy you might recognize, George Washington, and this guy you may not recognize, but that's George III of Great Britain. And these portraits are sort of painted roughly about the same time, maybe something around 1780s. So what can you tell me when you look at these portraits? What can you tell me about these two guys? And what can you tell me about the government that they run? For example, which one of these guys leads a government where the power is divided and where we sort of have a democracy? Does it look like this guy is for divided power? Does it look like this guy is for democracy? Or does it look like this guy is the guy who really wants to rule? This guy is the one who's in charge, who's not interested in sharing power with anyone. This guy, however, modestly dressed with an outstretched out hand, looks like someone who's more of the people, from the people, who might be more interested in what the people wants. And of course with people here, right, I'm limited. You understand, women can't vote, slaves can't vote, etc., etc. So limited, but still more expansive than what's going on in Great Britain. So the point here is just by looking at their clothes, you can tell what kind of government they're leading. And that's part of what we're doing in this course. The other thing, too, that's worth noticing is there's not much going on here with George Washington's clothes. They're dark, they're kind of not much design to them, very simple. And that's something that we're going to see in America, specifically for men, that men are not supposed to wear clothes that stand out too much. And only in specific periods where men have been allowed to experiment with colors and texture and design. But when we start out here, the message that's sent is that men should not think too much about their clothes and that they should be sort of nondescript. All right, that's it for this class.